All right. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this month's Worksoft webinar, Streamline Success, Integrate Continuous Automation into your CI/CD Pipeline. I'm Austin Chandler, Senior Content Manager at Worksoft and your host for today's webinar. We can answer questions at the end of our presentation. If you have any, please use the questions feature to submit a question. If we don't get to yours, we will email you with a response. Today, Worksoft Director of Product Development, Anand A.K. Kameshwaran, will showcase how closed-loop automation powered by process discovery seamlessly aligns with the CI/CD pipeline, driving efficiency and reducing risk throughout the organization. This presentation will be recorded, and a link to the on-demand session will be available for anyone who's unable to attend, or if you'd like to share or review the information. Due to a large number of participants, lines are automatically muted. Now I'll go ahead and turn things over to AK. AK, if you're talking, you are on mute.
All right, sorry about that. All right, so first I want to talk about why this is actually relevant, right? So most businesses, particularly when we find ourselves in times of economic hardship or lack of finding qualified people, automation is a great way to drive efficiencies across your organization, and it's no surprise that most businesses that we've talked to are looking to automate an entire business process, right? So we're not talking just about individual tests or functional, but businesses are wanting to automate the overall process and the end-to-end process that helps drive the activities that bring in their profits, make customers happy, and accomplish their goals. There has been kind of big change in the industry lately around converging these different capabilities, bringing together, not just some simple automation, but really trying to adopt an idea of intelligent automation. And, we find ourselves in a very exciting time in the industry where intelligent automation is starting to also bring in aspects of generative AI and new AI capabilities. But Worksoft, we have been working with around the idea of intelligent automation for quite a while. Going to go through some of that today, and the time has come. So hopefully this will feel very relevant to talk about how we can take advantage of our intelligent automation in your CI/CD pipeline. So just in case you don't know, who are we? We have been in business for over 20 years, providing test and automation solutions to enterprises, and have a very deep and long experience with automating processes. Really, and as that has evolved, so have we as a company. So at this point, that in order to drive better automation, we really start at the front end, and this is where I want to talk about that intelligent automation, right? The first piece is actually understanding and knowing what you should automate. We, then have a very large first-class engine for executing tests at scale in an automated fashion. And unique within the industry, we then allow you to take that straight into your actual production processes. So while we may have started traditionally more in a development and QA space back in the days when development and operations were different entities, as the industry has changed, we have continued to provide, best of breed tools, to cover all of your automation needs. So let's talk a little bit about what the overall platform is. So, you can't do intelligent automation if you don't actually understand your processes. And one of the pieces, that we find all the time when talking to customers is the understanding and knowing what's actually happening with their processes. There's typically a very big difference between what we think is happening with our processes and what is actually happening with our processes. So, we want to give you that ability to make those intelligent decisions. Then we can, take that information that we have and we go ahead and ship that right straight into our test automation. So we use the insights that we have gathered from discovering those processes to rapidly create the automation and de-risk our business processes. And finally, as we move through this iterative cycle, the final stage is once we have chosen the right processes to automate, we have automated those things within test, and we are confident in their proper execution, we can go ahead and move that into production with the appropriate levels of governance and security. So, well, you can really start anywhere, and frankly, most of us who are technical, we start by doing things, but you just want to jump in and start automating the processes and see where it goes. What we do find frequently is we don't always automate the right things. So, and why is it that we don't always automate the proper things? And I think, again, if we look at the industry over the past 20 years, going back to when Worksoft first started, development, operations, lines of business, these were all heavily siloed, and we did not even have, say, industry standards or other things to bring those together. But with the rise of Agile and the rise of DevOps, what we been struggling with, I think, as an industry for many years now is the convergence of these disparate groups. Right? They don't always talk to each other effectively. There's not always great collaboration. But this is driving a lot of new capability and efficiencies if we're able to bring these pieces together, right? So typically those folks who would write the business processes were using their own tooling, their own understanding to design these processes that would get handed over, or more accurately, I think sometimes thrown over the fence to a team to implement. And then a third team ultimately takes responsibility for running and operating these things, and none of them share the same overall view. So this is, a very ripe target, for kind of streamlining your overall operations and streamlining the practice of continual business process improvement. So, in order to kind of take this oftentimes laborious process that involves multiple teams and that are typically siloed, using closed loop automation and as part of an integrated platform, we really can do just really three simple things, right? This isn't actually rocket science. First, we just need to know for sure, what are our end users doing? Not just what we have told them to do, but what is actually happening in practice. Right? We need to be able to document that quickly so that all the stakeholders can understand. First thing we do is we just go ahead and capture what our users are doing today. We can, then very easily take advantage of what we have captured and use that to jumpstart the creation of our automation, right? Immediately from understanding what steps and what our end users are actually doing, we can create test processes and tests that represent their actual activity so that we are, testing the right pieces of our solution. And tie that into our CI/CD pipeline. So these are automated, this can be done automatically every single day. As soon as a change is made, we can look to see what impact it may have had on our process and really drive that rapid improvement. Now, there are a few vendors who kind of cover the steps 1 and 2 together, but I think one of the places that we are uniquely situated is also to then take that into production, right? So the typical DevOps conversation really is all about how does development and operations work to actually get the solution deployed, and the pieces that occur at runtime, are typically left out of the overall loop and that feedback loop, at least not in any automated fashion, and that's one of the powers that we have here. So what we start with at step 1 is usable all the way through, and so it's real simple. We find out what has value, we automate that, push it into production, gather those insights, rinse and repeat. Now, when we talk about intelligent automation and sort of understanding, what are the key pieces that we are trying to understand about our overall processes, right? So we really want to be able to look at and examine certain key questions. Which are the business processes that have the most value to the company? Which are the ones that have the most variations, which may represent a place for improvement, possibly more at a logical level than necessarily a technological level. But, if we don't have some of that understanding, we won't invest our efforts where they will have the most effect. Also understanding the overall coverage of our automation, right? Which of these processes do we currently automate today? Where do we have opportunities for quick wins for ROI? Beyond that, when we go outside of the processes themselves, there's also the business context that we want to be able to analyze. Are these processes associated to some internal functions, HR or other pieces like this? Are these the processes around that are actually driving your bottom line, right? These are around order fulfillment or purchasing or things like that, right? And so being able to understand those impacts, these process impacts, not just at a technological level, but to which stakeholders, which stakeholders are involved and who will see that improvement. Again, allowing us to focus our efforts where we have the most value for the business. Right. And it's always good to have a fairly good understanding of what are the reasonable outcomes. One of the challenges that I see for many automation projects is the initial promises oftentimes may not be in alignment with the ROI that can actually be achieved. And so even when there is a positive and proper ROI on that initial initiative, if it seems to come in a little bit lower than expected, it makes it hard to build the motivation to continue or to invest again and invest additionally into those same types of improvements. But if we, in advance have a better idea of what the value that we can hope to achieve, we can set appropriate expectations and be very successful in our business optimization processes, our business optimization projects, and, kind of take those wins and decide where to invest next. So, let's take a look at a little more detail in terms of how do we understand and identify what are our sort of high value targets, right? So end-to-end processes are built up of individual steps and activities that the users or the systems or other pieces take, right? So we want to really take a holistic look at that process in order to understand its value to the business, right? As well as the complexity involved in automating it. So, at the sort of the high level, it might be very easy to just understand, what are the number of steps that are involved for a process, get an idea as to its base complexity and others. Another aspect that's very important, though, is to understand which of our processes really, undertake a lot of variation. It's very easy to test the happy path. It's oftentimes easy to test some negative scenarios. But when you understand where your users are actually kind of going off of the script or off of the main line, helps you identify what are these processes we really should invest in, right? If there's a lot of variation here, there's probably some room for improvement, and get a better understanding of that. Obviously, processes that are used, multiple times, or certain steps that are used over and over, those probably have a bit more value. So understanding, which are the things that we do, once a day, and what are the things we do thousands of times a day. And then beyond that, we just want to be able to highlight, where are there actual problems, right? If we see specific steps that typically take a long period of time, we can look into understanding, is this based on perhaps an under-resourced system, or not enough volume to handle it, or perhaps this is a manual step that ends up taking a lot of time, and we might look to see if there's a way to automate that, right? So we want to do, intelligent automation starts with an in-depth understanding of how your end-to-end business processes run today and what is that overall impact. And once we have some of that understanding, when we talk about the different stakeholders, it's really important to be able to present that information and to analyze it in the way that it actually impacts the overall business, right? So, I mean, it's one thing to say, cool, we can execute our order process, 3 seconds faster than we could before. But the more relevant piece is how much money did we save? How many more orders could we actually process? What are the impacts for the different stakeholders? And at the end of the day, all of the technical metrics are wonderful, and they help us understand where we need to improve. But in order to really understand or see whether we're getting value, we want to know what is the actual bottom line impact, so that we can calculate our ROI, so we can set the appropriate expectations with our stakeholders. And as we provide services and capabilities to both our customers and our lines of businesses, they can truly see the impact that our automation has had and the improvements that it's made for the business as a whole. And I'd sort of alluded to this previously, which is, as we understand this is not a one-time operation. It's not even a large operation at any one point in time. Agile really drove home for most organizations that everything should be an iterative process. So we do these same simple steps every single time. And with our closed loop automation, not only do we gather the insights from what we saw in test and development, which is usually a common source of understanding for what's going on with our processes or the overall process analysis, we can also bring in the data from production execution itself and really have that full-on feedback loop. That means that enables us to continually improve over time and always be able to pick the next most valuable area to focus on. All right, so once we understand, where we can derive value quickly and easily, we also need a way to easily and efficiently automate those pieces, right? So, for modern development, as we, and in the DevOps context, the place for doing this is in your CI/CD pipeline. Right. So once we have discovered the processes, what we want to feed the outputs, the processes, the end-to-end business processes that we've captured from the users and built into automation artifacts. We want to be able to trigger them in response to whatever change as part of the process release cycle. So we have a component called our continuous testing manager, and that is the piece that lets us run the high value processes that we already identified in step one at unprecedented scale. So CI/CD pipelines need to be automated. They should largely be lights out. So once we have created that, we have been providing CI/CD based solutions or integratable test solution, for pretty much our entire existence. And we enable you to execute those tests in parallel, as well as in specific orders, right? So whether your regression test is, okay, do we need to confirm whether this very long running process, like a plant provisioning or something like that, is overall successful, or whether you need to determine what would be the impact when you're running about 100 different orders at once. We're able to support that the timing and the scale of tests for our core enterprise customers. And so this can be done, very easily integrated with your CI/CD pipeline. We have several out-of-the-box integrations for like Jira, Jenkins, and other CI/CD pipelines. But you can also go ahead, just set these up to be a part of your overall schedule, as well as just, run the tests when you need to, but in a lights out fashion and not consuming the resources or the time of your engineers, but just queue it up, get it ready to run, come back and grab your results later. One of the fun things about CI/CD pipelines, as I've seen, is they tend to grow a bit organically. A CI/CD pipeline is made up of multiple tools, whether it be Jenkins, Jira, Azure DevOps. And just about every enterprise has their own flavor and their own set of tools. Frequently, there may be corporate dashboards or internet dashboards, other places that we want to present this information. And so everything that we do at Worksoft is built API first, which means anything that you can do through the web UIs is also easily automatable using a standard OpenAPI 3 based API. And so while we do provide, out-of-box plugins for many popular pieces of your CI/CD pipeline, from the test management to build automation, when you find that you've got either something you built yourself or need some different behavior or a different workflow in your overall CI/CD pipeline, we make it extremely easy for you to build your own quick integration. And there's really no reason to worry about what you can do from an automation standpoint. That API first means that if a user can do it, it can also be automated, for whatever workflow or whatever integration you need with your CI/CD pipeline, either from an execution or a reporting standpoint. Now, there is the most common use case around automating tests within a CI/CD pipeline are regression tests, right? Because ostensibly, we already know the behavior, we've captured it, the outcome is known. This is very, ostensibly very easy for automation. The problem is there is always change, even in our known processes, particularly when you're doing an end-to-end business process that may be made up of pieces of SAP, made up from pieces of Salesforce, homegrown applications, mainframe, et cetera, so on and so forth. And many of those changes may not be in our control. So this is where our object action framework, another part of our intelligent automation, helps solve that overall problem, right? So going back to some of the initial understanding of our processes and understanding the individual weight and value of the steps, not only in the context of a single execution, but sort of across your processes, which of these steps are utilized time and time again. So because we have that understanding of the processes, we can see that, hey, leave type is used as a part of this process, here, and the first time that we encounter a change because of some backend update or minor change to formatting, even, right, which frequently can cause problems for front end automation. We can detect that and then find all of its other instances. So we correct, the first time that we find it. So we say, all right, in this process, we have now seen that this leave type has had a minor change. And we take a look at it. Then we identify other uses of that within other variations of that process or other processes that use that same overall step. The object action framework allows us to then automatically apply those updates and fix them. So once that has been, once the change has been seen for your regression test, and we're able to correct the underlying step, we fix it. We fix it once, and then it's fixed everywhere. And so this really does help continue the, for a CI/CD pipeline, particularly around regression tests. This is incredibly important. So that that minor changes don't result in a whole lot of rework around the regression tests and others. It lets you absorb minor changes as a part of your overall process and just keep going with your automated test cycle as you move on forward. So, when we kind of take together these abilities to both determine, pick our proper targets at the using our process intelligence capabilities, and feed that into our continuous testing. And as you can see, we use the object action framework and other capabilities to de-risk and de-friction the actual running of our regression tests on a continuous basis. we're now prepared to feed this in for continuous deployment and put that into production. And that's where we can get to, kind of a fun concept of getting to day zero automation, right? So when you have the existing kind of silos or the other pieces in place, usually what ends up happening is we have a development cycle, then we have a test cycle around all of those processes, and then we go ahead and push those into production. But when you have those silos, the production automation is usually built using different artifacts, and so the production automation processes also have their own development cycle, which usually means that so we release a new version of our solution. And then there is always, when you have all these silos, an absolutely necessary delay as you build out the automation processes for the new solution that you're going to use in production and manage some of the governance from that perspective. When we bring all of these pieces together, we're actually able to cut that out. Right. So again, we are bringing in the we're and it doesn't just go in one direction. We take those insights because we're using the exact same artifact that we use at the initial discovery. We use it in testing, and then we use it for our actual production execution. We can pull all of that information directly back in an automated fashion to feed that next cycle. So that eliminates some of the delay and some of the pause that typically occurs between different iterations as we improve our overall processes. Right. So with that better information, we are able to just automate that shift right from the processes that we're using in as part of our CI/CD pipeline. Those same artifacts literally are the automation that we can go ahead and use in production. So ultimately, we do not have an additional test cycle. There is no delay on our ROI. As we test the process itself, we are also testing the automation that we are going to use in production, and wrapping that all up in the appropriate governance that we need from an audit and regulatory standpoint. And that really lets us then immediately go ahead and deploy those processes the moment that we are sure that they have passed their overall testing. And that gets you to really kind of a day one value. Instead of a recurring set of cycles where you need to bring together multiple stakeholders time and time again to look at this elephant from each of the different perspectives, we're really able to get to a point where we're all working together, and was the moment that we were done with the dev and QA, we're able to release and start seeing value absolutely immediately. And we see this with our customers. They, even from net new, nothing automated, they are able to very quickly discover it. The reuse of artifacts and the way that we drive through the process allows them to immediately take that information once they've discovered it and begin to automate that, and then immediately push it down into production. And so not only are we able to perform this automation at large scale, across the industry, we also make it very easy for you to create these artifacts and get them launched in a very short period of time. So there was a very, very short time to value when you look at closed loop automation. Well, so I do want to thank you all. Thank you for your time and for listening on how you can streamline your CI/CD pipeline. I just want to leave you with, I don't, so hopefully you're leaving this with an understanding of how Worksoft and our closed loop approach can drive efficiencies in your CI/CD process, improve your ROI on your automation efforts, and to be able to share that information with all the valid stakeholders. But you don't just have to take my word for it. We have been doing this for very large enterprises on a global scale for many years, and so I invite would say you don't just have to take my word for it. We have many successful customers that we work with quite closely together, who can also tell you about the great results that they have had with a closed loop approach and driving year over year ROI. So just remember, digital automation is changing. Generative AI and sort of the current hype is also going to drive change in automation. Worksoft has been around for a very long time in the space, and we continue to evolve with the industry. And I just say this is a very exciting time, and look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks, AK, and thanks everyone for joining us for this morning. Hope you gained some useful insights to apply to your organization strategies, like AK said. A link to the recording will be sent out within the next business day. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.